Hi, happy Friday, everybody. Oh, goodness, we turned off the music. It got super quiet in here all of a sudden. We just had a big roll of customers, and now once they rolled out of the door, it got really quiet. Okay, let me get our friends from Instagram added on. Okay, so here we are, and I wanted to talk about a question we get asked a lot. Because we have a lot of people who come to us seeking help with hips and joints for their elderly pets. And want to talk about kind of a multi-layer approach and tell you why maybe you should start before you see a problem. When you see a problem, it's not that it's too late for natural supplements to help, but it's that you're kind of behind the curve. You need to stay ahead of the curve. And some of the things that we're going to go over today, I can talk about the fact that these items are needed in more intense, powerful ways once issues present themselves, versus if you keep your pet on a hip and joint product, maybe starting as early as a puppy, then those products continuously are working to support the hips and joint area and working to help keep their health and joints, their hip and joint areas as healthy as possible, so that you stay ahead of the game. The other thing I want to be clear about is that if you feed your pet a dry food or a canned food, and even sometimes a freeze-dried food or raw food, hip and joint supportive ingredients are not going to be therapeutic level in any food, even if it's labeled mobility. So maybe you're feeding a prescription mobility food. I can promise you that there is no food on the market that is therapeutic levels of joint supportive supplements. You must add supplementation in order to really have therapeutic levels of hip and joint supportive ingredients, which we're going to go over in just a second. But I think that's really important because I think there is marketing to this that makes you believe that perhaps if it's called a mobility food, that all of those ingredients that are included in that food are supportive. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't lend themselves to helping with the support, but they're not going to be therapeutic levels alone. So they're not going to replace adding in a supplement. You must add in a supplement, especially if you're having issues. If your pet's having issues with arthritis and hip and joint issues, putting them on a mobility food is not like you are doing shampoo and conditioner all in one. It's not an all-in-one step. You still need to add in the hip and joint supplements because you're not going to get enough therapeutic levels out of the ingredients in that food. So I want to be real clear about that. That's one of the things that I think is really important because a lot of these foods are coming out with diets that are functional. So digestive, skin and coat. And while they can lend themselves towards helping, none of them are going to have the therapeutic levels of what a supplement's going to have. And so I don't want anybody to be under the false illusion that you can buy a food and support your pet's joint health 100%. Now, some raw foods and gently cooked foods are going to have more omega fatty acids because they either haven't been cooked or they've been cooked at such a low temperature, their omega fatty acids are still stable and still present. Doesn't mean you can't add in more. But we'll go over some of these key kind of building blocks for hip and joint support. And I'll talk to you about where they can be found and where they're most prevalent and kind of what they do. It is a longer subject to cover. I will tell you that as I was writing up everything and kind of making my notes. It's a super long topic to cover because there's a lot of parts and pieces and building blocks, lots of different joint supportive ingredients. So I really kind of want to go over all of this. Of course, the one it is most important to stay on joint supportive supplements from the time that they're puppies or young adults would be larger breeds. Those breeds are going to start losing their joint health faster. And because they're heavier, you definitely want to have them on joint support from the beginning. But all of us, including humans, our joints start to degrade after time. It's just how it works. So adding in supplements can definitely help prevent and prolong that health. It can prevent issues and prolong the health of our joints and help keep us kind of active and moving as long as possible. So everyday activities like running, jumping, playing, even normal aging place wear and tear on the joint. So once it begins to break down, the body has limited ability to kind of repair it on their own. They need these supplements in order to repair it. So where can you get these things to help? So the first one would be omega fatty acids, omega-3s specifically, particularly EPA and DHA, which come from fish oil. They also can come from coconut oil. They can also come from things like a plant oil, and algae oil is especially rich in them as well. What happens though is they are very fragile. And so when exposed to heat at high temperatures, they can die off. The other thing about them is they are not very shelf stable. So if you're buying a dry food only and giving dry food or wet food, they're not very shelf stable. So you kind of lose the potency to the omega-3s that have been added after the cooking process, and you still need to add them into a dry food. So omega-3 fatty acids, the EPA and DHA, are among the most important ingredients for the joint support. They're kind of the biggest building block. They directly target inflammation. And so inflammation is one of the biggest contributors to joint pain and cartilage breakdown. So chronic inflammation in those joints is going to damage the tissues and kind of allow arthritis to progress. Now, different things have different levels of EPA and DHA, and in all things, when it comes to feeding or supplementing, we always recommend rotation. The reason being, because EPA and DHA, or the key ingredients in all of these supplements, the therapeutic levels can differ for different things. So with omega fatty acids, you have things like fatty fish is really rich in omegas, omega-3s, seeds and nuts, algae oil, and like I said, the EPA and DHA content in each one of these things is going to be different. So if you rotate through, you're going to give the best variety and the best profile of omega-3s for your pet. Now, EPA and DHA, you're going to have to be real careful. I would definitely be sure if the packaging says to refrigerate it, you want to refrigerate it, which Ultra Oil frequently does say that. And you want to make sure that you are giving good quality products. And of course, in our supplement aisle, you don't have to worry about that. But you want to make sure that the quality you're giving, don't just go and get an off-brand fish oil capsule and squeeze that in your pet's food and think that that's going to be all the omega-3s you need to be giving your pet. There are some great supplements in our supplement aisle that are very high quality, and while they may be more expensive than the off-brand vitamin E or fish oil capsules you'd buy in a larger brand store, the quality and the potency will overall give you more bang for your buck and give your pet better health. Okay, so that's our omega fatty acids, one of the biggest building blocks to reduce that inflammation. Glucosamine. Now, places you'd find glucosamine: shellfish, exoskeletons, bone broth, cartilage, raw bones, green lip mussels. We do have raw bones here in our store. We have a nice freezer full of these. And if you look at the marrow right there, that's going to be glucosamine. Glucosamine is a fat, and it can be found very rich in cartilage. So a lot of the glucosamine supplements are made from shark cartilage or beef cartilage, just because they're larger animals and you can supply a lot of glucosamine using larger animals like that. But bone broth is a great source of glucosamine, because what happens when they make bone broth is they slow cook the bones and cook the glucosamine down into a liquid, essentially, and it seeps out into bone broth. So adding bone broth in is a great way to be adding glucosamine into a young pet's diet. We always say add moisture to the diet. Bone broth is a perfect way to do that, and also add some joint supportive glucosamine to their diet. Bone broth is excellent. It's an excellent source for many things, but especially for glucosamine. Green lip mussels. Something to say about green lip mussels is that not all green lip mussels are equal. Sometimes companies, lower quality companies, will get green lip mussels because they can put on the back that it includes green lip mussels, but the good stuff out of the green lip mussel, the most expensive stuff from the green lip mussel, has already been extracted. And so it's really just kind of the meat left behind and not really the joint, not as much the joint supportive properties of green lip mussels. So be careful with that. Make sure you're getting a good quality product. Again, our supplement aisle is a great place to start, but just know that about green lip mussels. A lot of times the discard from green lip mussels after they've made human products is just the meat and the flesh. And again, they can still say it includes green lip mussels, but it doesn't have near the joint supportive properties that a whole green lip mussel would have. So, but glucosamine works to support joints. It is a building block for their cartilage. Cartilage acts as the cushion between the bones and the joints. So, you have bones that knock up against each other and it has that cushion in between. If you own dachshunds like I do, that cartilage, that disc material right in between those vertebrae is very fragile when you're a dachshund and can easily rupture. But over time, cartilage naturally wears down, and aging, highly active pets. And so you want to make sure that you're continuously giving them great sources of glucosamine. It's most effective when it's used consistently. It is not fast acting. It takes a very long time for glucosamine to get in there and work. And it's one of the reasons that, if you're seeing a problem, you may start your pet on a hip and joint supplement. It's going to take a minute. And more than a minute, really. It's going to take weeks for that to really start paying off because it takes a long time to get in there and start doing its job. Doesn't mean that it's not doing its job. It just takes a long time to build it up. So it's most effective when you use consistently and proactively. It's not a quick pain reliever. And we'll talk about pain relievers in a minute too. Pain relievers, medicine, pain relievers have a place in the world, but the idea would be to use them for short term. So chondroitin, again, another really good, rich source of chondroitin is going to be your bone broth. So chondroitin and glucosamine, they work synergistically together. Chondroitin offers the moisture. It helps cartilage retain water. And that's really, obviously, if you have something like that that's a cushion, you want it to have moisture in there to offer the best cushion and flexibility and shock absorption that it can. So it needs that moisture, and that's what chondroitin does. And together, glucosamine and chondroitin help to nourish and protect that cartilage and helps kind of keep everything functioning correctly. Again, it's a proactive thing. Glucosamine and chondroitin work very well together, but you want to make sure you're giving it before you see problems. When you're seeing problems, you're going to need some faster acting things. MSM is another great supplement. It kind of works really well with glucosamine and chondroitin as well. It's a natural sulfur compound that supports connective tissues. So it just helps manage that inflammation even more. It's essential for the formation of collagen. So we'll talk about collagen here in a second, but it's just really essential for helping to support the collagen and the connective tissues. And it really is valued for anti-inflammatory and antioxidant purposes too. It can be found in proteins, so in the meat that we're feeding them. It can also be found in some vegetables, things like broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale, alfalfa. Those are all great sources naturally of MSM. Now, all of these have very low levels of MSM. So you might, if you're having an older pet that is presenting with problems, you're going to need to feed them more than just the whole food examples of these because you're going to need something a little bit more concentrated. Collagen. Okay, so collagen is a major structural protein. It's found in the cartilage, tendons, ligaments, and connective tissue. And collagen's pretty popular these days. You hear a lot about it. I had a dachshund who had to have back surgery in November. And when I took her to have her back surgery and everything, we were talking about adding collagen in for her because I had read that a lot of dachshunds with back issues, the collagen was very helpful and more helpful faster than the glucosamine and chondroitin. And so I was talking to my rehab professional about it, and she said it is specifically UC2, sorry, not US, UC2 collagen. And this is a great source of collagen. This is our Pets collagen powder, and you see it has the UC2 collagen. That's undenatured collagen, and that's one of the best forms of collagen to get in there, fast acting, and start helping rebuild the collagen in your pet's body. All of us, as we age, our collagen production starts to dip down, and so that's what makes us a little creakier, makes it a little harder for us to recover. And so adding in a collagen supplement, if you've had an injury or you have a dog with some chronic issues, that can be very helpful. And again, it's that UC2 undenatured collagen that you really want to be specific about. And that Farah does have that. But it supports cartilage integrity, tendon and ligament strength, joint flexibility, healthy connective tissue repair. It's also really good for skin and coat, as a side note. But it really is good to use in conjunction with all these other things. It's not a standalone thing necessarily, but great to use in conjunction. So the other thing I would say is we have things like our Tonics, which we love. They're hip and joint and hydration. This is really good because it does have the green lip mussels in it, but it also has dehydrated beef bone broth, which again is going to have what we know, glucosamine, chondroitin, MSM. It's going to have all these things in it that will really help with the hip and joint. This is a liquid formulation, but it comes in powder. You mix it with distilled water, mix it together and add it with your food. But really good for hip and joint support, and does have the quality green lip mussels added into it. One of the other great things we have here, and it is an oldie but a goodie, they have just updated their packaging, but we love the Canine Advanced Mobility for liquid health, and this has glucosamine, chondroitin, and MSM in it. It is a liquid. Now, I'm going to tell you it is a little bit harder to use with small dogs. One, because it comes in such a gigantic tub, but also it is very rich. So you want to make sure if you're using it with little dogs that you're using just a small amount. I definitely would not stray from their recommended dosage, which for a dog of 1 to 9 pounds is half a teaspoon a day. I would not go over that because it can easily blow up their tummies and make for a big old mess. But this does have red algae mineral blend in it. So it has the omegas in it as well. And then it has the glucosamine sulfate from shellfish, glucosamine HCl from shellfish, and then it has chondroitin sulfate from beef, and then it has MSM as well. So a great joint product. You can use this in conjunction with the collagen if you wanted to, but we find that to be a really, really good joint support. We love the products from Liquid Health. We have all different kinds of hip and joint supplements up here. Another thing I didn't really touch on, but this is our hip and joint by Project Green, and we're loving Project Green supplements that we brought in. But this one, the base, if you can see, is like a shredded coconut. And then it has, so it's organic coconut flakes, and then it has turmeric and ginger. Turmeric is really, really good for joint health from the standpoint of it reduces inflammation. And so adding in that kind of a support, you have the organic coconut flakes, which is going to offer you the omega support. And then you have the turmeric to really help with the inflammation and pain. So that's a great supplement too. Of course, it doesn't have chondroitin and glucosamine and all those rich things in it. So it would just be part of what you would add in order to offer more joint support. Then we talked about mobility foods. And I don't like necessarily that there are foods that say mobility foods. It doesn't mean that I guess the ingredients that they're including aren't useful. I mean, they are useful, but they're just not going to be at a therapeutic level that they're really going to be useful for a pet who is in need of supplementation. So please be sure that if you have a pet that is struggling with joint health, that you're adding some really high quality supplements into their food, because quality does matter when it comes to all of these things. Quality is very important when it comes to supplementation, and why we're always looking for high quality products that have great derivatives. Some of these do have synthetic vitamins and minerals and things like that in there, but they're high quality synthetics. And we try to look for as many that have natural whole food support as we can. But some of these maybe need to be as intense as they can be to help with your pet. So some more great products that we've had wonderful luck with is the Glycoflex. These are come in a treat form. And these have the glucosamine, they have MSM, they have chondroitin, they also have vitamin E, which is your omegas, vitamin C, manganese. And so they have a lot of great ingredients, and they also have greenlet mussel to really help. We've had some employees here who have had really good luck with these and ACL issues. So I definitely recommend these. But we have just tremendously wonderful products here that you can start out using with your pet. Like I said, you're going to want to give it a max like 4 to 6 weeks to see if you're going to see a difference. And if you're already using something like carprofen or gabapentin or something like that, Rimadyl, your goal here is going to be keep them on that until you get to a 4-week mark and can start weaning them off. Things like Rimadyl, carprofen, which is the same thing, all of those are going to be heavier on your pet's liver and kidneys because they're medicine, they're pharmaceuticals, and so they can really stress those vital organs. And in a senior pet, that's especially difficult. So the goal is to use those for short-term pain relief while you get them on some support and get them to a therapeutic level so that then you can wean them off of those medications as much as possible. Okay, my final warning to everybody. Please do your research about Librela. It is an injection that you can get for your pet at the vet. And while I know that it has offered some relief for pets, there's a lot of research to say that it's not great. And it's pretty good to know that it was blocked for human use. It cannot be used in humans, and there's good reason. And I'm just not thinking it's the greatest thing to use for your pet. It may give instant gratification. Your pet may go running off right after the injection and be so much better in the immediate aftermath, but that doesn't mean that it's helping your pet overall. And there have been some pretty gnarly x-rays that have come out about pets that have been on Librela and what their joints look like from x-ray to x-ray. So I think it's a great thing to research. Now, all of those medications have a place and a time potentially for pets in their immediate needs. I just think it's really important to not walk into it blindly and to have read everything on it before you opt to have that done for your pet. Make sure it's the right option for your pet and know what the side effects are and what the potential is down the road, because I think it unfortunately masks a lot of things. Okay, I think that is kind of the end all to this. It is a very long subject. There are a lot of other places we could go with it and a lot of other things, but just like with feeding, I really believe that supplementation is great done in rotation. I believe feeding is great done in rotation as well, rotating among proteins, and if your pet allows, rotating among brands. Just because if you're feeding your pet the same thing every day, day in and day out, they're not getting a full nutrient profile. And it's the same way when it comes to supplements. If you're feeding them the same supplement every single time, they may be missing out on some complementary building blocks that they really need in order to make everything work. So definitely come in, get to know our supplement aisle, make some rotations in what you're doing, change it up a little bit from time to time so that your pet can be getting maximum effects out of the supplements that you're feeding. If you're feeding them from our store location, you can rest assured they're high quality supplements, and you want to make sure that you're getting your money's worth out of them. So by rotating, you can make sure you're adding in and, maybe sometimes giving a little bit more of this and a little less of that, just so you're getting a good full profile. So I hope that helps answer questions. We can help you more in depth with your pet's problems specifically at both of our store locations. We're happy to assist you. And like I said, we have huge supplement section, and it is not by accident. We really believe in supplementation. And I once interviewed Dr. Chris Besant, who started Herbsmith. And Dr. Chris said that the 3 things she thinks we should always give our pets, but especially dry food fed pets or highly processed food pets, hip and joint supplement. They should always get that. They should always get an omega supplement, and they should always get a pre and probiotic. Those are the big 3 that they should always get, because they're not going to be good quality in the food based on the processing. So definitely making sure that you are hitting up our supplement aisle and taking a look at everything that we have available here. There's definitely a reason for that supplement aisle. Hope you guys have a great weekend, especially a holiday weekend. I can't say enjoy the weather because it might be nasty, but we are at least getting rain that we well deserve. So you guys have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.